Hey everybody, welcome to the leadership class. And today we're going to be looking at Robert's Rules of Order. And this video is to prepare you for the Robert's Rules of Order quiz. It's a crash course in Robert's Rules of Order. You see, Robert's Rules of Order is how you do business in large groups. And the bigger the group and the more formal the decision-making process, the more likely people are going to be playing by the rules of Robert's Rules of Order. And if you know what the rules are, you'll do a better job actually engaging in the game. Uh, in like teams, like leadership teams, or even church boards and stuff, there's sort of it's more informal. Like with my staff meeting, we never did Robert's Rules of Order. We just talked about stuff and wrote it down and made decisions. At the board level, we just discussed things around until we came to a thing. Then we had motions and seconds and stuff and took minutes to because it's official business. But like at a conference, like a district conference or a general conference of the church and that kind of thing, everybody runs exactly by Robert's Rules of Order, and that's the only way it works. So I'm just going to give you this quick crash course in Robert's Rules. Let me share my screen with you here, and we will go to town. Hopefully, this will be helpful for you. How to run meeting? Don't give them chairs. That's the best way to do it, right? To run an efficient and effective meeting. The Bible says the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. And the idea of Robert's Rules of Order is just to rule wisely and to make good decisions and to be able to have wisdom in the process of making good decisions. Sometimes without a process, things get chaotic. So, Robert's Rules of Order is a form of parliamentary procedure. It actually comes from the English Parliament. Now, those guys are not too orderly, but they do get things done. And the way they do it is through their rules of engagement, their rules of order. So, there's this guy, Henry Roberts, who was asked to lead a church board meeting back, I think it was 1863, something like that. And the meeting went off the rails. It was just awful. And he thought, man, somebody needs to do something so that we can have business meetings where church people don't knock each other over the heads and stuff, and it doesn't descend into chaos. So it's a church meeting that instigated the whole thing. And he said, I want to figure out a way to do this to make group decisions that are clear, that we can actually have a civil conversation, a clear conversation. And so the way this works, particularly in a large group setting, is it needs to be formally done, right? And so there are some certain rules of engagement that you do in Robert's Rules of Order. The idea of Robert's Rules of Order is to protect rights, is to protect the right of the majority to rule, the right of the minority to be heard, and the right of everybody to participate. So, like, there might just be a few loud minorities. They shouldn't win the day just because they're loud. So they take votes and things. And all opposed say aye. Uh, but the majority wins. But the minority has a chance to have their voice heard. They're not just shut down, and that everybody that's like a member of this body has the right to say something and participate. So, like if you're a delegate, for instance, at district conference, you have a voice, and you can say your stuff. So with the boards and committees and stuff, they tend to run more on a consensus level rather than as a formal usually I had a pretty much a unanimous vote by the time we took the vote. So I would call it a modified Robert's Rules of Order. So at the board meeting, we would discuss the items. I would have an agenda, and we'd discuss the item in the agenda until we came to some kind of consensus. It may not necessarily be 100% agreement, but we know that pretty much everybody thinks this. There might be one odd ball that's out, but and so like, and then once it's generally speaking, this is the feel of the group. We're going to take the thing is, okay, do I have a motion then? Yes. And then the motion requires a second. And then it says, is there any further discussion? All right, we're going to vote on it now. All in favor? Aye. And everybody says aye except for the one guy that didn't like the idea. And he says, no, I don't like that. Well, too bad. Go along with the flow, buddy. Um, The quorum, a quorum is the number of people necessary to do business. For the Wesleyan Church, the quorum would be a majority of the board members. That would be like one more than half, right? Like one, so you have to have there's just a little bit more than 50%. So if you have nine members on your board, you need five there to do business officially. If you only have four there, you can maybe meet and talk about it, but it's not official until it gets ratified later on. The ratifying, you can actually ratify when the quorum shows up and say, hey, only four members showed up, and this is what we said. You guys feel okay about that? Yeah, yeah, we do. Okay, now we're good. But if they don't feel okay about that, then the whole thing is null and void. I've had board meetings where we couldn't have the meeting because we did not have a quorum. It's interesting that in the Wesleyan Church, the local church conference is where the members vote, and the quorum is just whoever shows up, whatever members show up. So if you only had like three members show up at your local church conference, you've got a quorum because only three showed. I mean, because that's what it says, just the members who show up, as long as there's proper notification. I think it's like a couple of different public settings that it gets out there, so the people know about it with ample opportunity to know. Once that's the quorum, the number of people necessary to do business. The person that runs the meeting is called a chair. Um, by the way, I'm the chair of the religion division at Southern Wesleyan University. I remember when I got the call and they told me, they asked me if I would be a chair, and I said, sure, I'll do it. Then I hung up the phone. I was visiting my grandkids at the time, and I said, hey, they just asked me to be a chair, the chair of the religion division. And my granddaughter Lily says, someday you'll be a couch. Someday you'll be a couch. Well, so anyway, the chair is the person that runs the meeting, and you address the chair. So when you're in a meeting, a formal meeting, like if it's an official like district conference, you address the person as Mr. Chairman. I move that we do this. So like everything gets addressed to the chair, not to each other in the room. Now at the board meeting, we kind of banter back and forth with each other, but the person who's in charge of the meeting is called the chair. And the chair is the one that creates the agenda. And in the Wesleyan Church, the pastor is the chair unless the pastor delegates that to somebody else. There's another position called the vice chair, and the vice chair is the person that takes over when you're talking about issues like pastor salaries and stuff like that. You address the chair in a formal setting, you address the chair as Mr. Chairman or Madam Chairman, right? Because if it's a female, it's Madam Chairman. So the chair makes the agenda. The agenda is a formal order of business. It's really good to have that written down ahead of time and distributed to everybody in the board and stuff ahead of time. Let's say we're talking about a board meeting now for this one. Now, this is true actually for your big meeting too. You can have an agenda, formal order of business, and you try to get it distributed to people before the meeting so that way nobody is surprised. The way that I would do this, like as the chair of the meeting, I would say to the board members, if you have something you want to have added to the agenda, please let me know. Let's talk to me about this. Sometimes people want to put stuff on the chair, on the agenda that has nothing to do with the board. It's other stuff and should be dealt with in other places. And so you can just kind of cut that off at the pass, and it saves you about a half hour of hashing if you do it that way. All right, so here's the agenda. First of all, there's the call to order, and that's the way with the meeting is now beginning, and the chairman says, "I now call this meeting to order." All right, that the call to order that means that we are getting ready to go. One thing that you do early in the meeting is you approve the minutes of the last meeting. And once you approve them, they are legally binding documents, right? So you don't want to ever monkey with the minutes. I suggest for a board agenda that you use these three items, these three things in your agenda. I know that like if you took Robert's Rules of Order somewhere else, you'll see like old business, new business, stuff like that. Nah, don't do it that way. Do it this way. Information items, discussion items, and action items. Information items is where you have reports coming in, like say the treasurer's report, or if there's some new updates, like let's say the pastor has a report they're going to give. It's just letting people know stuff, right? That's the information items. This is where the reports come in. The discussion items, you should only have maybe just two or three of these that take the bulk of the meeting. and you're discussing the important issues of the day. Don't waste your time on piddly little things that could be decided easily at a lower level. Like at your board meeting, you should be discussing big stuff, like not piddly things. But these discussion items are how do we best fulfill the mission that God has given to us? What are some ways that we do that? You're going to be discussing things like, do we hire a youth pastor? Do we build a new building? Do we add on to the parking lot? How do we handle these kinds of things? You have maybe two or three of these things. Now you may not decide on them yet. In fact, I would say the bigger the issue, the more time you need in processing it. Because what happens is if you make the decision prematurely and vote on it prematurely, all these board members are going to go home. They're going to talk to their spouse. Their spouse will say, "You idiot! Why did you do that? Did you think about this and this and this and this?" And we go, "No, we didn't." And then they come back at the next meeting and say, I've been thinking about some stuff." So in order just to nip that in the bud, you postpone unless it's a slam dunk and everybody's in favor or it's urgent and it has to be done, like repairing the furnace. What you would do is you would move the action item to the next month. So you discuss stuff, and then the action items should be done quickly because you've already discussed them in the meeting before, and now we're back to the action item, and then you discuss that, and boom, you vote on it, and then you adjourn the meeting. And when you're taking the notes on that stuff, you put the time that it started, the time that it adjourned, and those kinds of things. Now, the minutes are a legal record of decisions or actions taken. They must be approved, and that's usually at the next meeting when the minutes are approved. Once the meetings are approved, like I said, don't monkey with the minutes. I have a friend that got himself into big trouble because he went back into the minutes and made the minutes say things that he wanted it to say rather than what it really said. And so that really, I mean, that you could get into legal trouble for that. I mean, that's a crime to do that. So here's I made a hypothetical set of minutes. It looks like I accidentally goofed this up. I put Kanye West. This should be indented under Reverend Billy Bob Bowser. Like it should all. So the best way to do minutes is to have like your taglines on the far left bold, and then you indent the information underneath each of these. So that way you can find it really easily if you're looking for it. Don't just do paragraphs and stuff. You use these headers with bold. You want to say who is there because that way, if somebody like, see, I wasn't there at that meeting, will say, yeah, you were. There it is. I see your name right there. Now, if it's a local church conference or something like where you're actually doing an annual business meeting for your whole, you don't write all the names of all the people there. You keep a record of it in another place and just do a roll call. They would actually sign their name and then you just list everybody. You would just do that separately. But for your church board meeting, you actually write their names down. You say when it happened. You get the minutes approved. There's our items here. This is our treasurer's report, youth expense. I don't. I'll put a link into Canvas that will show you like a sample of these minutes, so you can get a thing for that. So now let's talk about motions now, and I'm going to move now into the more formal kind of Robert's Rules of Order. Again, with the board meeting, it's usually you make a motion, like you discuss it all ahead of time, then you finally come to the resolution. Somebody makes a motion, somebody seconds, we vote on it, and that there we are, we're done with it, right? But the way it works in a formal setting is you don't even discuss it until there's a motion for it. And so the main motion is like, Mr. Chairman, I move that we buy the pastor oh, I know, that we send the pastor to Hawaii on a sabbatical. All right. And so then now that needs to be seconded. Somebody needs to second that motion. And then from that, now that's what we're debating, right? So that's the main motion, and you're debating that main motion. Now, while you're debating this main motion, some other motions could be introduced. Like for instance, let's say it's too hot in the room. That's an incidental. Uh, 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 or Mr. Chairman, do you realize that in 20 minutes the soccer game or the Super Bowl is going to start, and if we need to get on with things? Oh, okay. Or a privilege motion would be stuff like it's really hot in this room. Could we turn up the air conditioner? Kind of thing. So you're talking about some of this kind of stuff. So like you have the main, and then you have other kinds of things that you can bring in from the side. So I'm going to come back to this one in just a second. I think. Yep. Here's what you can do with a main motion. And these are like subsidiary to the main, like so though it's underneath the main, and then if it gets tweaked, then that becomes the main motion. So basically, with a main motion, Mr. Chairman, I move to send the pastor on a sabbatical to Hawaii. You can vote it up or vote it down. Everybody votes it against it. Oh, I don't want that. He doesn't know Hawaii. He doesn't deserve to go to Hawaii. Or you can amend it. You can amend it. You can say, I want to amend the word Hawaii to 6 miles South Carolina. We're going to send them on a sabbatical to 6 miles South Carolina instead of Hawaii. And let's say that gets voted up then, and now we're at 6 mile. And then somebody comes along and says, "What I want to do, I want to amend the amendment, right? And I think that we should say it's a vacation to 6 mile rather than a sabbatical to 6 mile, right? Okay, now we amend the minute. Now it's a vacation to 6 mile. Actually, you can amend an amendment before it's voted on. So like let's say we said vote on sending a pastor to Hawaii for that's your main, and then somebody says I move to change it to a sabbatical to 6 mile, and then somebody comes along and says I want to amend the amendment to make it a vacation to 6 mile. Then what you have to do is vote on the vacation to 6 mile first, and if that passes, now it's a vacation to 6 mile, like the vacation instead of a sabbatical. All right, now it's a vacation in 6 mile. Is that over or down? No, they voted it down. Okay, so now they voted the amendment vacation 6 mile down. Now we're back to the main motion again. Sabbatical in Hawaii. All in favor? Aye. Everybody votes aye, and he gets to do it. So you can vote it up, you can vote it down, you can amend it, you can postpone it, you can kick it down the road, and you can do that by tabling it, or you can postpone it definitely or postpone it indefinitely. Now, if you postpone it definitely, that means, oh, let's postpone it to the next meeting. Now, if you want to vote something down, if you don't want to send the pastor on a sabbatical to Hawaii, but you don't want to vote no about this, what you can do is you can vote yes by postponing it. Let's postpone this indefinitely. I think we should let's just lay this aside for right now. Let's just do that, and we'll postpone it, deal with it another time. We don't say when the other time is. So now it's just out there and never, never land. If you postpone it indefinitely, it just kind of goes away. You can vote it down by voting yes. Or you can table it, and when you table it, basically, so let's just table that. And now with the tabling it, anybody can bring it up at the next meeting. Any member of that body can bring it up at the next meeting. But if they don't bring it up at the next meeting, then it just goes away. All right. But if they do bring it up, then you have to deal with it in the next meeting. So you can vote it up, vote it down. You can amend it. You can amend the amendment, right? You can postpone it. You can postpone it definitely or indefinitely or table it. And you can refer it. You can refer it to a committee or a task force or something. You say, you know what, I think this is too complicated a decision for us to make. It's going to take, we don't know how much it's going to cost. Let's refer it to a committee to like, let's do a task force. Let's do that. A pastor's sabbatical task force to see if we can send so could you go and research this thing and find out how much it would cost us to do that? And we're going to have Bob and Sally and Joe, you guys be on the task force. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. So now so the task force will do it. Now you can refer it with authority or without authority. And when you refer it with authority, means those guys can make the decision. You guys just make the decision about the sabbatical and let us know what you decided. Or without authority, they have to bring it back and tell you what they came up with, and then you as a group, you decide whether or not you're going to do it. All right. So with the main motion, then you say, I move that we, send the pastor. Is there a second? Now, if you support that, you just shout out the word second, or you can say support. You can say that, right? And if nobody says anything, then the chair says, okay, we have a motion before us. Is there a second? Now, once it is moved and seconded, it doesn't belong to the motion person and the second person anymore. It belongs to the body, right? Now it's all of ours because we all voted. It's moved and seconded. Now it's all of ours, right? And so this is where we discuss. By the way, when you make a motion, you don't say, I want to make a motion. Like if I make a motion, you say, I move. That shows like if you say, I want to make a motion that kind of shows that you're not very skilled at Robert's Rules of Order. So basically what you just say is, Mr. Chairman, I move that we do this. And then if you agree, you say second. By the way, you don't have to agree with it to second it. You don't like you could be totally disagree. You think it's the dumbest idea ever to send the pastor to Hawaii. You want to second it so you can argue against it and vote this baby down, right? If you're the chair, what you want to do with the discussion is look for balance. And so, like, let's say that you notice that the thing that's before you, everybody's in favor of. Everyone's in favor of. I'd like to speak in favor of this. I'd like to speak in favor of this. I'd like to speak in favor. Finally, after a while, I say, we've heard several in favor. We want to, is there anybody that would like to speak against this amendment? Because it might be good, to have this some balance. Now, if there's nobody speaking against it, you say, I think maybe you're ready to vote. Are you ready to vote? If so, say aye. Aye. Let's close debate. Aye. Everybody says aye, and then you vote on it. Now, if you do vote to close debate, you're going to have a two-thirds vote because there's a reason for that, right? But I'll come to that. Well, do I have that here? Nope, there, never mind. I'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so there's the motion. It gets seconded. Okay, so now we have moved and seconded that we send the pastor to Hawaii on a sabbatical. Now we debate back and forth. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, the ayes have it. That's what I say. The ayes have it. And this motion has passed, right? And now once that is, then they put that in the minutes. The group voted to send the pastor to Hawaii on vacation. Now, by the way, when you're doing the minutes, you don't have to say who moved it. You don't have to say who seconded it. All you need to say is it was decided to send the pastor on a sabbatical to Hawaii next summer, and to give him $10,000 as travel expense, right? You just put the stuff, you put the actions taken. And there it is. And all in favor of declaring Die Hard to be a Christmas movie, say aye, 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 aye. I think it's a Christmas movie. So here we go. Let's say it's time you're at the district conference and you have something on your heart you want to say, and you said, Mr. Chairman, and yes, yes, or yes, 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 gentlemen, you and the Pee Wee Herman hat. I move that we do that. Okay, good. Is there a second? Second. Okay, now the message for the group. And you're only allowed to do one motion at a time. You can't have two different motions going on at the same time. The only thing you can do is amend motions and amend amendments to motions, but you can't have two things, like separate, complete motion going on. If somebody introduces that, they're out of order and they'll be shut down. So when you're making your motion, you want to make sure you get recognized by the chair. You speak to the chair directly. You keep it balanced. If you're in charge of the thing, you keep it balanced and keep it moving. You say, "Are you ready to vote? All right, let's call for the previous question then." So now if you are in the audience and you are getting bored with all these people talking, you can just say, "Mr. Chairman, I move the previous question." This is one of those subsidiary motions that you can do to get things moving, right? This is one you can put up while the motion is going on because it's about the motion. And so you can say, I move the previous question. That means we stop debate and we vote on this thing. Another way to do it is you can just shout out, question. Like if you're tired and sick and tired, you just shout out the word question. Everybody knows that's what it means. Question. It doesn't mean you have a question. It means that let's get to the question of the day. Do we get to vote on the pastor to go to Hawaii or not? Right? Let's just move on. Whoops. Well, basically, bottom line though, the question requires two-thirds vote, limiting debate. requires two-thirds vote. Let's say it's taking too long, you want to keep it moving along. You're the chair. You say, how about if we limit it to three more people on each side, or how about if we limit it to like 1 minute each now of talking about this? You can do that, and you can vote on it, and that's a very fair thing to do. But it takes two-thirds of a vote by the body to do that, because anything that limits the rights of the people to participate in the discussion and in the debate and stuff, anything that limits that right needs a two-thirds vote. If it gets two-thirds vote, you're good to go. And I've never once seen, by the time things get hashed around, that has failed because people are usually ready long before that comes up. Now, there are certain motions that are privileged. They gain, they are like right at the top of the heap. The highest ranking motion of all is the time, is to set the time to which to adjourn. Not at which to adjourn, that's different. So if we said at which to adjourn, that would mean we're going to adjourn at 4 o'clock. But it's time, let's say you're adjourning. Let's adjourn until tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. That's the highest, right? And right under that is the motion to adjourn. To adjourn means you stop the meeting. You can't do anything else if you vote to adjourn. I actually was at a meeting once where somebody wanted to stop the meeting. And so at the first thing in the meeting, he gets up and says, Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn. Was there was somebody, the district superintendent, he didn't want to get elected. So he tried to do this as an end run around that. That went down like a lead balloon. But, but, but if it had passed, we would not have been able to have voted on the new district superintendent at that time. It didn't pass. But setting the time to which to adjourn, let's say that they're in the middle of a heated kind of thing and we realize we need some more time. Let's adjourn until tomorrow. All right. Okay. All in favor to adjourn tomorrow? And then if it passes, then we're done. And you don't debate it or anything like that. You just, it's just done. And you adjourn, it's done. I mean, it's done. Recess is second. Like let's say you need a break and people need a potty break or whatever. And, I move that we recess for 10 minutes. Or you need to talk with people about something. That's the way you do it. Orders of the day would be, let's say that you've already predetermined in your agenda that Wayne Schmidt, the general superintendent, is going to give an address at 2 o'clock. Well, that's the order of the day, and it's 1:55, and let's go in like 1:59. Maybe you could make the most. I think we have an order of the day, and if that's the case, that brings it right back to the item. And now they could vote it down. People could say, no, we don't want to do the order of the day. We don't want to hear his speech. We want to keep on arguing. But the orders of the day, any of these things can trump the main motion. Like, so whatever is being debated, time out, time out. It's time for the order of the day. And the question of privilege is like where if it's too hot, too cold, I can't hear, I'm confused about something, that kind of thing, right? So you voted up, voted down, you amended, postpone, table it. We did that already. Now the bar is not like the bar. The bar is how you identify eligible voters. So like at our district conference in South Carolina, we have like our phones now. They say everybody that can, as you put this code in or whatever, and now you are anybody with that phone and that code, you are in the bar. Sometimes they put it in certain seats, like the first 10 rows, or that's the bar. And so like if you are a voting member, you're inside that. If you're a non-voting member, you're outside of that. With electronic voting these days, the bar has been much less strict about that. When you're voting, you can do it in different ways. You can say, you can do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. All in favor, no, or nay. No, usually no is what it is, right? You can do it as a voice vote. Sometimes, though, there's a loud voice vote. And if there's a voice vote and it seems like it's iffy, you might want to do a hand vote. Or maybe you just want to do that right off the front. Okay, let's show of hands here. All in favor? All opposed? Say no. Now, if you want it to be more confidential because it's like maybe an election and you don't want your friend to know that you didn't vote for him, or it's just kind of sensitive, you could do it as a ballot vote. And a ballot vote is you can do paper ballots or you can do it with an electronic ballot using your phone and stuff like that. So a ballot vote, a hand or stand up vote, a voice vote, aye or no, I'm not in favor. Any of those will work in voting. There are certain rules. I think, like in the Wesleyan thing, I think the secretary, for instance, has to be elected by a ballot vote. And I do believe that the district superintendent needs to be elected by a ballot vote. There are certain ones that have to be. It says that in our book, and so whatever it is, it says that. Even if there's only one person running, you still have to do a ballot vote because that's what it says. Now, there's an interesting little thing I just want to tell you about. And by you listening to this video, you'll know something that almost nobody knows about, and it's really interesting. It's called the division of the House. If there are like two identifiable groups that are a part of this voting, two different, like so you would say, voting blocks, if you will, and that's designated up front ahead of time, anybody that is in the body can call for a division of the House, and it has to be voted this way. What this means is that if there's two identifiable groups that they're declared in your bylaws and stuff. So with the Wesleyan Church, it's clergy and lay people. So we have like 50% clergy, pastors, 50% lay people at our general conference, at our district conference. And basically what it says is that is the division of the House. So like we have both identifiable groups. And so if somebody calls for a division of the House vote, what that means is it has to pass by a majority of both groups. So like one time I saw a thing that was it was the lay people liked it a lot, but the pastors didn't like it. It had to do with the way pastors were voted on, and none of the pastors wanted it, or hardly any of them did. All the lay people wanted it. Well, actually, the opposite. None of the lay people wanted it, and a majority of the pastors wanted it. And so it would have passed with a majority vote if we'd have just taken it as a vote at General Conference. But there's this guy that gets up and he calls for a division of the House with the lay people voting first, and it didn't pass with the lay people, so the whole thing went down. The pastors didn't even get a chance to vote. So I might use that at General Conference next time. I might, it's a nuclear option. So, okay, so in a vote, the majority wins. If there's a tie, that's not a majority, so that means no, it loses with a tie. Some votes require two-thirds vote. This is where I was going earlier. Some votes require two-thirds vote. Anything that limits your right to participate is a two-third vote. So, like, let's close debate, two-thirds vote, because that means that somebody may not be able to say what they wanted to say. So anything that now it doesn't mean like it limits rights like for the pastor to go to Hawaii, it limits his right to go to 6 Mile. It means the right of doing business. That's what requires a two-thirds vote because they want to protect those rights for people. But yet they also realize that you don't want to have just a small group of people holding things hostage for a long, long time. All right, yeah, you can amend an amendment. You can only do that more than one time. You vote on the amendment, vote on the amendment. We already did that. You refer with authority, without authority. Table it. Anybody can bring it up at the next meeting. Did that. Postpone definitely and indefinitely. This is what like indefinitely is voting no by say voting yes, right? And definitely is postponing it to a specific time. Okay, just a couple more things and we're done. The nominating committee of your church is your most important committee. It's more important than the board because they're the ones who determine who's on the board. And who gets on that board is vitally important. So you need good, godly, wise, discerning people on your nominating committee. Make sure they're saved. Make sure they're spiritually mature. Make sure they're settled in your church, that they're not just fly by night. Don't just put a new person into that. I've seen that blow up. Make sure they're supportive. Don't put a bunch of negative anti people. That doesn't mean rubber stamp people. Hopefully they're smart and they can actually ask good questions. And if you're making a stupid decision, you want somebody to question that, right? But if they have something up their craw, if they're just like negative all the time, if they have negative energy, they're bad mouthing leadership and just really working against things. Boy, definitely don't put that person on the board for heaven's sakes. If they're on the board, get them off the board. That's just not good. That poison is toxic, right? They should be safe people. They should be people that aren't going to be gossiping everywhere and they're able to keep confidences. They need to be secure people. So that way, if there's somebody disagrees with them, they're not going to go off the rails and melt down and stuff like that. And you want them to be able to think. You want good thinking people that are on your leadership. So these are the leadership qualifications you should be looking for at the nominating committee level, looking for these kind of people for the leadership positions in your church. And you need discerning people that would be able to discern if whether people have this or not. For the nominations, let's say you're nominating, keep it small. Don't nominate like 10 people for one position. Generally, two names for position. You could do more. You could just run one. If there's only one person that's willing to be treasurer, you can just run that. That's fine. If you know that Bob has been the treasurer for the last 30 years and there's no chance whatsoever that anybody else is going to get elected, why would you run another name to be trounced? So you could just do that if that's a slam dunk. But generally speaking, it's best practices to run two names for position. You have to have two secure people that are not going to get mad and leave the church if they don't get voted in. And if they do, it shows they probably shouldn't have been voted in the first place. What you do though is you do your two names. So let's say if you have like four board positions and you have eight names, that works out pretty good. Or you could do six or eight names or something like that. Don't just have like if there's four positions, don't just have five names nominated. Then you have one person that's the loser. So you want to have a little bit of cushion there. And one way you can do this, just because you nominated somebody doesn't mean they'll accept the nomination. So you want to have some in your bullpen to say, okay, we're going to do these names, but if they say no, then let's do these names. All right. So what we're going to do is this is a first, second, third, fourth alternate in case these people decline the nomination. So that way it'll save you from having to meet again and have another nominating committee. When you make a nomination from the floor, which according to our discipline, nominations of the floor are what we do. Um, um, there's no second required today. You can just nominate a person, and if you're a voting member, that name goes up. Um, the one problem with that is there's some vetting that probably ought to happen for board members to make sure that they are, what is it, saved, secure. So like there might be some reasons why that person wasn't nominated, and it can create some embarrassing, awkward kinds of things or create some drama if they are. So usually people nominated from the floor don't get elected anyway, and that very rarely happens. It does occasionally, but like if you're pulling shenanigans, then people will do that to you. They'll nominate from the floor because they feel like you're being undercutting things, their rights. And so, and so if it's a political thing, yeah, that could happen. But if you're doing it forthrightly and with honesty and goodness in your heart, I very rarely do even get a nomination from the floor, but it's available right there. Um, you can nominate yourself, but I don't recommend it. I've never once seen somebody nominate themselves that got elected. If nobody else is going to nominate you, nobody's going to vote for you. Um, so the winner for like a board or whatever has to have a majority of the vote. So like all of them have to have. Let's so if there's four positions, um, you have to have a majority of the votes cast. That doesn't necessarily mean the majority of the people in the room because there might be some people in the room that didn't vote. So you actually count the actual votes, and it has to be more than 50% of those votes that the winner gets. And if let's say the win like one person, let's say it was four positions and two people got over 50%, but the other two are like 37% and 42% or whatever, then it was 12% and 11%, then the first two get elected and you're going to have to re-vote. I would suggest re-voting at least once. Um, if it looks like after that, like let's say that it looks like it's just going to be stuck here for a while and people aren't budging and stuff like that, You can elect by plurality, but you have to, plurality means that whoever has the most votes now is going to win, even if they don't have the majority, right? Like the presidential election is a plurality vote. So you can win even though you don't have a majority of the votes. But if you elect by plurality, you need to make that decision up front ahead of time before you vote. And don't do that for your first vote. You do that after you've voted two or three times and people are really getting tired of voting. Then it's very fitting to do the plurality thing. Okay, for this next one, gets the most votes going to win. Are you okay with that? Now, two-thirds vote because that limits rights, right? It limits things. It limits how many times they can vote on things with the majority. But almost always people go with that at that point. All right. Well, man, I have just given you tons of stuff. I hope that's helpful for you as you take your Robert's Rules of Order quiz.